All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little San Francisco Giant video. Are the Giants getting Shohei Ohtani? We'll talk a little bit about it next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. They're open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. in both Marin and in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera and in Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week in both locations, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Get the brisket. Get the brisket chili. All right, let's talk a little bit about one of the craziest trade rumors I think I've seen in a long time. Okay, here we are. It's towards the end of July. And what does that mean? Well, the MLB trade deadline is August 1st. And unlike the old deadline where, the old deadline was July 31st. And then if players cleared waivers, you could make trades in August. And many of the players who had significant contracts, and even some that didn't, would clear waivers. And there would be a number of trades in the month of August. But baseball said, you know what, we don't like that. So we're going to switch it around. And so they changed the rules. And so now August 1st is the trade deadline. And there is no trades after August 1st. So if you're a playoff team and you've got pitching depth issues, or, you're going to either have to make some moves and add some players from your farm system, or you're going to have to make the move before August 1st or on August 1st before the deadline. And you're talking about a season that plays the rest of August and all of September. So you're going to have to go the final 2 months with whatever reinforcements you have internally or guys that were waived or released and are just on the street. Because there will be no trades after August the 1st. Okay, so that's the backdrop. The other backdrop is the Angels are probably not in the race, and they have Shohei Ohtani, and he's headed towards free agency, and he's going to be one of the biggest free agents in the history of the game. Some people think he may wind up, the bidding may start at 10 years and $600 million. Yes, I know that is absurd, but we're talking about $60 million over a 10-year period as a starting point for the bidding on Shohei Ohtani as a free agent. So there's an awful lot of speculation out there. Will the Angels try to move Ohtani before the deadline? Will Artie Moreno sign off on trading Shohei Ohtani? The one thing you got to remember is he's their entire show right now. He's the reason that Angels fans are watching the games. He's the reason that Angels fans hover around the TV set every at bat he's got, every start he's got. He's the show. Obviously, they've got other players, but the one thing about Shohei Ohtani, he's one of the most special players the game's ever seen. In some ways, he's a modern Babe Ruth. He's a pitcher and a hitter, and damn good at both. So he's a unique player in that there's nobody like him. He's a legitimate two-way player. The Giants have shown an affinity for two-way players. Heck, the last two number one picks for the Giants in the amateur draft have been two-way players who are both hitters and pitchers. So obviously they've been rumored to have a lot of interest in Shohei Ohtani. Now the question is this: what's the best pursuit of Ohtani? Do you try to trade for him here in late July before the August 1st deadline? Or do you hold on to your prospects, hoard them, and try to make a big play to him to sign as a free agent? Now, the Giants have not had a lot of success in the free agent market trying to outbid other teams. They just haven't. Tried for Aaron Judge, didn't get him. Tried for Giancarlo Stanton, didn't get him. Tried for Bryce Harper, didn't land him. So the Giants have tried, and Giants fans are all too familiar with this bridesmaid situation where the Giants are in the mix and, unfortunately tease their fans, get them all hot and bothered, and then they don't land the free agent and everybody's upset. Last year was even worse because they, potentially were going to land Arson Judge, according to John Heyman. Oh, but that was an erroneous tweet. And, less than a day later, he's a New York Yankee. Then the Giants were going to sign Carlos Correa, 13-year deal. Correa's coming to San Francisco. Instead, on the morning of the press conference to formally announce him as a Giant, well after Giants fans had already thought, well, he's in the fold, the Giants pulled out because of cold feet over the medicals in the physical that he took. And probably they got really lucky because Not only did they pull out, I mean, Correa has not been very good this year. And I can only imagine what a 13-year deal for $350 million would have done to the Giants' spending habits in the next decade. So in a lot of ways, they dodged a serious bullet by not landing Carlos Correa. So that's a whole different discussion. Do you want to swim in these waters? Do you want to go after the top free agents? Many of the top contracted players in the game, if teams could get out of those contracts, they gladly would. For every good Barry Bonds monster contract, there's a million Mike Hampton contracts, and bad Anthony Rendon for the Angels, another monster deal that hasn't worked out. And there's plenty of examples around baseball of big money mega deals where the team that signed the player to the deal would gladly get out if they could. So, but at the same time, the Giants have nothing but money. They got a park that's paid for, and they've got a season ticket base that's shrunk from 30,000 to 5,000, and they're trying to get those people back. And so they're desperate to get this thing turned around. They're right now headed to the playoffs as a wild card. And what do they do at the deadline? That brings us to the topic of today's video, which is Jim Bowden, the former Reds GM, who's now works for The Athletic, produced this little gem that he believes the Giants ought to offer the Anaheim Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, for Shohei Ohtani, a 5-player package that would include Carson Whisenhunt, a lefty who just pitched in the Futures game and has just a nasty fastball changeup combo. One of the most nasty 2-pitch combos you're going to see. This guy throws 94, 95 on the fastball, and he's got a plus changeup from the exact same arm angle. And he just makes guys, he could literally stand on the mound and yell, "I'm throwing a changeup," and you still couldn't hit it. He made that kid Holiday for the Orioles just look so bad. It's a big time 2-pitch deal. And, heck, Sandy Koufax had an incredible 2-pitch deal and made himself a Hall of Famer off the fastball curveball. I'm not saying Whisenhunt's Koufax, but he's a lefty with a power arsenal with a ridiculous 2-pitch combination that he could probably get guys out in the major leagues today with if they wanted to call him up. So Carson Whisenhunt is in this deal. Grant McCray, a young athletic outfielder who I saw hit a big triple in the Cactus League, very athletic future, either center fielder or right fielder, most likely. He's in this deal. Luis Matos, who's been promoted to the big leagues and had a big hit tonight in Cincinnati to beat the Reds. Matos is in this deal. In some ways a 5-tool center fielder. Marco Luciano, who today got promoted from AA to AAA, is also in this deal, and he's thought to be a shortstop or third baseman with 25 homer power. The Giants drafted him at 16. He's now 21. He's been in the system for a number of years, and he's just on the verge of breaking through. So they've got a lot of time invested in the development of Marco Luciano. And then to add insult to injury, Kyle Harrison as well, the De La Salle kid who's from the East Bay, from Concord, bypassed a full ride to UCLA to sign with the Giants. And they paid him over slot money to get him signed. They targeted him, and he's emerged as a dominant lefty. Think kind of a combination of Madison Bumgarner and Chris Sale. He's got a little bit more of like Sale's arsenal, but he's got that kind of low arm angle like Sale, like Bumgarner. And you're talking about 97-mile-an-hour fastball, 3-pitch pitcher, a guy who's on the verge of the big leagues, is in AAA. Now, he has struggled a little bit in AAA, but he's still thought to be a number 1 or number 2 starter in the big leagues. And according to Jim Bowden thinks that the Giants should trade all 5 of these guys to the Angels for 2 months of Shohei Ohtani with no guarantee that Ohtani will sign with the Giants. And all I would say is, hell no, I would not make this trade. No way. Now, if you wanted to say Luciano straight up for Ohtani, okay, you're giving one premier prospect who may or may not become a superstar. He may just be a very good Major League Baseball player. That to me is worth the rental. And then you get a couple months to try to, convince Shohei that this is where he wants to be. But what if Shohei's agent just shuts down all talks and says, you know what, we'll talk about that when we get to free agency? And you've traded 5 of your top guys. I mean, Harrison, Luciano, Matos, and Wisenhunt are all top 10 prospects. McRae might be right there in the top 10 as well. But I mean, Wisenhunt, Matos, Luciano, and Harrison, that's basically like your, 4 of your top 5 prospects in your entire farm system. You're going to gut your farm system for only 2 months guaranteed of Shohei Ohtani. And you know what? The Giants need to tease their fans less and please their fans more. This tease factor, you thought it was bad last year with Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa and almost landing these guys, but then not. You think that was bad? You think that teased the fans? Could you imagine what it would be like if the Giants really gutted their farm system at the top end, gave 2 premier lefties, a power hitting shortstop, an everyday center fielder, and maybe a starting future outfielder that might be a year away, but 5 prospects all on the verge of the big leagues. We're not talking about A-ball guys that are like, oh, yeah, the guy's got a live arm. He's in the low A. No. We're talking about Wisenhunt's in double A, Harrison's in triple A, Luciano's in triple A, Matos is in the majors, McRae, I believe, in double A. But, I mean, all these guys could be in the majors as soon as the middle of next season. And you're going to trade all 5 of them to the Angels for Shohei Ohtani? What if Ohtani says, I don't want to sign? Now you've gutted your farm. You want to alienate your fans and be, have people just filling up the sports talk phone line saying fire Farhan. Just make that trade. Make that trade where you trade 2 number 1 starters, 2 impact bats, maybe 3 impact bats and 2 number 1 starters for 2 months of Shohei Ohtani. Really? You're gonna go that all in on Shohei Ohtani? What if you can't sign him? Then you've got just the PR nightmare of nightmares. What if he signs with the Dodgers? And now you've got Shohei Ohtani, pitching and hitting for the Dodgers, and you've got the Angels with 5 of your top prospects. Not to mention, how are the Giants planning to sell Shohei Ohtani on playing here if they don't have their top-tier prospects to put around him? You don't think for a second he may say, hey, guys, I actually kind of was hoping to, be in a rotation with Wisenhunt and Harrison. I was actually hoping that Luciano and Matos and McRae were going to be on my team. I kind of like where your farm system was at, and I thought, man, I could sign with the Giants and maybe win a World Series in 3-4 years with a lot of those guys as the core players playing with me and behind me. What then? So no. Jim Bowden, I know he loves he loves making these fantasy trades, and I'm sure in some demented world he could justify this price. And I get it. Why are the Angels moving Ohtani? He's their everything without a good haul. But guess what? They're not holding the cards. Every day that goes by is 1 fewer day left on Shohei Ohtani's career in Anaheim. They've got the player who's walking away in free agency at the end of the year. They're a team that has not been to the playoffs in his tenure there. They're the team that has the pressure squarely on them. And you're going to turn around and offer them, you're going to gut the top of your farm system for 2-month rental of Shohei Ohtani and then tease your fans that much more and have your fans going, sign Shohei. And what do you think that's going to do to your leverage as far as getting your price? Not that you're going to get some bargain on Ohtani either way, but if you've already dealt 5 of your top tier guys in your farm system for Ohtani, if I'm Ohtani's agent, I'm asking for the world. These guys are so leveraged, they have to pay me. And I'm driving the price up huge. So no, Jim Bowden, I'm not doing that deal. And I hope Farhan's not considering it either, because you know what it would be? It would be 2 months of real excitement. And then if the Giants missed the playoffs, it would be like a nightmare. Even if the Giants made the playoffs, if he walked away at the end of the year, that would be a nightmare. And it would probably cost Farhan his gig. So Farhan, if you're watching, don't do this. Don't make this trade. Don't leverage, this situation. Don't get leveraged into giving them 5 of your top guys for a guy who's walking away from their team in literally weeks. Don't do it. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out 7 days a week in Emeryville and Corte Madera. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.